So this is the best routing information that we have about the pipeline. I'm going to caveat it with this is probably not 100% accurate, but it's the best we have. This was supplied by our good neighbors, Energy Transfer Partners. We have reason to believe that particularly in the Shafter area that the route may have changed a little bit from what's depicted there. But by and large, this is a reasonable representation of what's going on with this pipeline, where it comes from and where it goes to. We're looking at the section from the Brewster County line all the way to the border in Presidio County. We're not focusing on the section in Pecos County at this particular moment, and I'll come back to why if we have time. The thing that's of note here, you'll notice as you progress south down the route, you see things that say MP 50, MP 60, 70, 80. So these are mileposts or mile markers that represent the mileage from the pipeline of origin. And they serve as convenient reference points on this map. For example, if I know that the Marfa grasslands extend from approximately milepost 80 to milepost 140, when I make an environmental comment, I can so note in my comment that the Marfa grasslands are impacted by this pipeline from milepost 80 to milepost 140. So I can use the map to provide location reference in the comment. So that's why this map is of value. Another thing that's going to be probably difficult to understand. So first, we don't know that this is exactly the route. This is the best information that we have. The line that you see is about 2,500 feet wide. Okay? We can claim that anywhere along this red line, about a mile on either side of it is potentially impacted by this construction process, because we don't know exactly where it is, and it could be anywhere in that corridor. So it's fair game to claim that the species might be impacted within that sort of 2-mile buffer where this thing goes. So my real point is, we don't have to make it too hard on ourselves about knowing exactly that a protected species is right on the center line of this thing. If it's within a mile or two, it's fair game. And that mile or two comes to us because we don't know where the thing actually runs, and there are things like lateral access roads that get to and from it, and various things that allow us, noise from this process could disrupt the habitat of an endangered or threatened species. Noise, dust, just the presence of a human being. So let's look at a comment. At the top of this comment, there's boilerplate that is essentially what looks like a standard letter. So if anybody that's written a letter before can probably get this part of it right. So up here is John Doe, who lives on 123 Any Street in Fort Davis, Texas. So the date, and then he's addressing this comment to the members of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and their address is provided there. And it just basically says, "Dear FERC, this is a comment regarding FERC docket CP 15500. That's a critical component here. You have to have the docket number in the comment, and you have to have the docket number when you file the comment. So CP 15500, I've now written about 75,000 times since this all started. So you can mostly take a text editor and just copy that section, paste it into any kind of text processor or word processor that you use. In this particular case, this is a comment about the environmental impact to Lloyd's Mariposa cactus. So this is a threatened species both at the federal level and the state level. Okay, and we know that because we can find it in the Texas Parks and Wildlife Rare, Threatened, and Endangered Species of Texas. Those documents are actually in that resource folder, and that species is in the spreadsheet that's in that folder. And it's also in the environmental report submitted by our good neighbors at Energy Transfer Partners. So what I've done here is I've just created a title line that says Lloyd's Mariposa cactus is what I care about. So I've got the name, the common name, and then I have the species name. Sometimes there are variations on the species name depending on the thing that you're talking about. In this case, there are 2 different forms of the species name. I state that they're listed as a federal and state threatened species, and that they're known to be present in Presidio County, Texas, specifically in the transitional area along the Rio Grande River in Presidio County at the border. And then I make a citation that that information came from Texas Parks and Wildlife, and our good neighbors, Energy Transfer Partner, also supplied it in their environmental report, a copy of which is in that resource folder, and then the top of that document has the way that you should cite that reference. So this is similar to a footnote. It's a little simpler because it's in line with the paragraph. But all I'm telling the FERC is this is where I got this information. I didn't make it up out of my own head. Texas Parks and Wildlife said so, and so did our good neighbors. Okay. Presidio and Brewster County, Texas are the only locations that are known as habitat for this species. And I know that because I can go look at a map, and I'm going to diverge just for a second, I think. So that's Presidio and Brewster County up there in that little map. This is a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, U.S. government site. And I got to this by just simply going to Google and I typed Lloyd's Mariposa cactus. And the first two references that come up are Texas Parks and Wildlife and the Fish and Wildlife Service. So I clicked on that link and I get this whole wonderful page of information about Lloyd's Mariposa cactus, along with a map that shows me that area that's shaded there, which includes the space all the way up to the river, is a possible habitat for that cactus. So that's how I know that, for example, that Brewster and Presidio County are the only known habitat, and I can state that with confidence because the U.S. government told me so. Okay, so I put that in my comment, and I provided a link to the U.S. government site where that information was made available to me by my friends in Fish and Wildlife. And then I wrote a little bit about the thing, although you really don't have to, but I want to show FERC that I actually read about it. So I put the description of Lloyd's Mariposa cactus there, talked about what it is when it blooms, what color its blooms are, and I provided another couple of references, again, back to Fish and Wildlife and to Texas Parks and Wildlife. So I've got my sources cited there. And then I say in the next paragraph, the construction activity that's associated with the jurisdictional facility of this pipeline is a threat to Lloyd's Mariposa cactus. And it's a threat because it's going to encroach on the habitat, placing the species at risk. Soil disturbance, clearing activities, placement of mats onto the ground will crush my little cactus that I love so much. Bulldozers and stuff driving around are harmful to my cactus, so that's a bad thing. So I talked about why this construction activity is going to be a threat to the cactus that I care about. And I say that any habitat disturbance may damage this thing. And then our own good buddies at Energy Transfer in their environmental report talk about that. So I cited the permit application, Appendix F, the environmental report. And then the last thing I say is, if you read the environmental report Grimminger and Associates put together for Energy Transfer Partners, they claim that that species doesn't exist at the site. All right? But if you read the fine print, they were there one day. They were there in May 16, 2015 for some unspecified number of hours, and they walked approximately 1/10 of an acre of that site, which is called a pedestrian survey. So they stumbled around, hot sunshine, didn't see any Lloyd's Mariposa cactus. This species is not here, we're done. We can bulldoze this place. So that's the claim that these guys are making. So I say, maybe not. Probably somebody that knows the area, a field biologist who is familiar with the Big Bend region, needs to go out there and needs to conduct a complete pedestrian survey. They need to walk that entire site. They need to see what's actually there. So I just simply make that claim, and I dispute the fact that the partial couple of hour survey for that site is sufficient. And I make the point to the FERC that somebody who knows the area needs to go look. And the last sentence is here that says alternative routes that avoid the habitat should be strongly considered. And that's my comment.